From the Cleveland suburb of Berea, Ohio, Cleveland, the site of the 2016 Republican convention this summer, favorite son and Ohio Governor John Kasich prevails in his home state primary. He and his family step out in front of a banner reading, "As Ohio goes, so goes the nation." Right now, let's go to our panel. From Newsmax, New York, the man you usually see at this time of night, each and every weeknight here, Dennis Michael Lynch, the host of DML Unfiltered, via Skype from Mesa, Arizona, the editor of the great conservative website Politistick, Jennifer Burke, and via telephone from Connecticut, Dick Morris. Dick, we see a victory tonight for John Kasich in his home state, but as we keep our eyes on Missouri, things continue to tighten. Trump now up by only a 3 percentage point margin, and the show me state could turn out to be the Ted Cruz state tonight. Your reaction to what we're seeing with these numbers now from Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri is tightening, and it's a 3-point margin. On the other hand, Illinois, I think we should call, or if we did call, we would call for Donald Trump. The Kasich and Cruz votes are almost even, and they're splitting the anti-Trump vote, and Trump has about a 15-point lead with about 16% of the vote in. And North Carolina, there has been a pretty consistent 4-point Trump lead with about almost 40% of that vote in. So that will soon, I think, very possibly be called for Trump. As you look at this, JD, and I guess Dennis will like me saying this, you just have to be amazed at the breadth and the depth of the support Donald Trump has developed. I mean, and the most interesting thing is this is a billionaire who didn't buy the election. He didn't spend his money. You're seeing the impotence of the billions that were spent against him, particularly in Florida, almost 20 million of negative ads. And yet nothing happened, nothing stuck. And I think that this guy has a certain imperviousness to these negatives, which is very impressive. You just look at these results and your mouth is open and you gasp. It looks to me at this point, we can't be sure, it's not all in, just 12% of Missouri. But at this point, it looks to me like Trump is going to run the board, except for losing Ohio to the native state governor. Well, you can lose Texas and Florida, Texas and Ohio to the native sons, carry Florida, and not be dented in your move for the nomination. I'm seeing now that at least one of the networks has called North Carolina for Trump. This is an amazing evening for Donald Trump, and I am not sure that there is much of a path forward. What has to happen now is to stop Trump, if that's your goal. Kasich and Cruz have got to get together and assign states to each other, because it's very clear from Illinois that when you have Kasich and Cruz running, they split that vote. So that Cruz basically says, John, you take New York and Connecticut, and I'll take Arizona and Colorado and Utah. The problem with that is that Cruz is a conservative and Kasich is a liberal. And Cruz has always agreed with Trump on almost everything, just a different style and a different man, but disagreed with Kasich on almost everything. So Cruz really can't do that with Kasich without blowing his national base of support. So I think this thing is going to continue on. I think that at this point, I don't see how you stop Donald Trump from winning this nomination.
Dennis Michael Lynch, Dick Morris said you would be pleased with his analysis. How pleased are you?
You know, I like Dick and all, but he's not telling me anything I haven't already known for months. I mean, this is like watching a movie, how I know it's going to end, and it's just like, hey, can we end the movie already and go on to the next thing? Look, Dick said this is a big night for Donald Trump. I think he's a little incorrect there. I think this is a big night for America. It's a big night for people like myself who are just sitting here waiting for John Kasich to give his speech in Spanish. I mean, he wants to give everybody their amnesty and their work permit. The rest of us don't want that. We want our country back. We want the rule of law to be installed again. We want jobs to come back from China. We want the rule of law to be placed in to where it's supposed to be placed. And believe it or not, tough love, the kind of sort of tough love that Trump will bring to the White House, it's going to unify the country again. It's going to make whites and blacks and Asians and Latinos all come together again. It may hurt. You may have to crack some eggs to do it, but ultimately we're going to be having a fine tasting omelet. And so it's a matter of time. I'll enjoy myself for the journey.
All right. Well, speaking of the journey, the next stop next week, Arizona. That's where Jennifer Burke is. And Jennifer, you get the last word in this segment. What do you expect next week in the Grand Canyon State?
You know, in the Grand Canyon State, I would hope that my fellow Arizonans would turn out the vote for Ted Cruz. If you want to talk about rule of law, Ted Cruz is one candidate who I trust to instill the rule of law, who won't try to do so by also bringing in tyranny into this country. When you have a presidential candidate talk about opening libel laws for newspaper organizations that tell lies, which to him, lies are things he doesn't like, that's very concerning to me, especially as someone in the new media area. And I'll tell you what, the polls, poll after poll shows that Ted Cruz, head-to-head, beats Donald Trump. So as long as John Kasich is in the race, I applaud him for winning Ohio. It's great. It's his home state. I don't think it's going to be a difference maker for him in this race. If he were not in the race, then I firmly believe that things would shift and Cruz would then begin to win more states. You're correct, JD. They have a lot of the same messaging. Cruz has the consistency in his background. And he has that trustworthiness factor.
And we will have to leave it there. Jennifer Burke, thank you so much. Checking in from Mesa, Arizona. Dick Morris via telephone. Dennis Michael Lynch, stay with us. We're going to bring in Rick Unger, but we want you to stay with us as well as we step aside from our coverage for just a minute.